Welcome to Anub'arak. Okay, this fight is split into three phases. Phase 1 sees Anub'arak above the ground. Phase 2 starts when he burrows. Both phases require constant ad control. Phase 3 starts when Anub'arak's health drops below 30%. Right, so abilities. Anub'arak has an ability called Freezing Slash, which will damage targets in front of him, freezing them in an ice block for 3 seconds. So face him away from the raid and heal that tank lots. He also has the ability Penetrating Cold. This is a constant effect cast on 5 random players in the raid. It causes around 3,500 frost damage every 3 seconds for 18 seconds. I say constant really because when this wears off it's cast again on another 5 random players. The Nerubian Burrowers, which are the ads that spawn, have just one damaging ability called Expose Weakness. This is something that stacks to 10 stacks, which seriously increases the damage your off-tanks will take. Both Anub'arak and the Burrowers can submerge. Whilst Anub'arak is submerging is the start of Phase 2 and cannot be prevented, the Burrowers submerge can and should be prevented by tanking them on top of the ice patches. So you start the fight by charging in, tank first. You need 3 tanks for this fight, 1 for Anub'arak himself, and 2 for each of the Nerubian Burrowers that spawn throughout Phase 1 and 2. Well, really Phase 1, I guess. Have your 2 off-tanks ready to pick up the Burrowers when they arrive and split them up. Now, you're going to need to push your damage on Anub'arak to get him down before the enrage timer, and I mean really push it. That's about 10 minutes if I recall correctly. You may read some different strategies on how to increase the time you have to DPS him, such as leaving the off-tanks to pick up all 4 Burrowers whilst continuing to nuke Anub'arak only, or tanking him next to him so that AoE effects can hit all targets at once. However, each suggestion comes with at least one risk. For example, having all 4 Burrowers off-tanked whilst you solely DPS the boss himself will increase the risk of your off-tanks dying. If one of them dies, it's going to be a wipe. Most guilds are going to have their own version of doing this, really, so I invite you to come up with your own. Everyone's going to be doing it slightly differently. As for us, well, we decided to increase DPS time on him by nuking down the first 2 Burrowers that spawned, then moving on to Anub'arak himself for sole DPS while the off-tanks picked up the second 2 Burrowers. You're going to get 4 Burrowers per Phase 1. In Phase 2 we then burn down the remaining 2 Burrowers that are alive whilst running around killing the small scarabs that also appear in this phase. Don't forget the orbs as well. Patches of Ice. Patches of Ice and their correct use is essential. Have a nominated player move around and kill as many flying orbs as possible in Phase 1. If your team and your players are good enough, get any player near one to fire as part of their rotation. When the orbs fall down, large patches of ice will appear on the floor. All Burrowers need to be tanked on top of these patches as it prevents them from burrowing. And if they do burrow, they will heal back up to around full health, which is 750,000 health, and re-emerge later when you may have other ads to deal with. In Phase 2, all players must be standing on patches of ice, but not near any remaining tanked Burrowers. Why? Well, as Anub'arak moves through the floor, sticking spikes up as he moves, and stay away from these, he focuses on a random player and gives chase. He is going to catch, and when he does catch, he casts Impale, which fires a single large spike through the floor of that player. If that player is not standing on top of the ice, they're going to be hit for around about 19,000 damage. Now, this is an AoE effect, this Impale, and it will hit anybody else within 6 yards as well, sending you flying in the air quite a long way, which means you're going to get falling damage applied as well. If the player is standing on top of an ice patch, then the ice underneath them shatters, but there's no damage to the player. Effectively, it never actually reaches the surface. If you're next to a tank, however, then the last patch of ice underneath the tanked Burrower may be destroyed, giving the Burrower a chance to submerge and heal. That's not something you really want. As an aside, those ice patches can be stacked multiple times on the same piece of floor. An Impale will only break one of those patches, not all of them. And finally, when he's submerged, as I've already mentioned, there's a stream of minor ads to deal with, but just burn these down. Okay, so as long as it takes you to get him to 30%, Phase 1 and Phase 2 will rotate. Phase 1 lasts around 90 seconds, Phase 2 about 60 seconds. You only really want him submerging a maximum of about, I think it was 3 times. When you finally reach Phase 3, the game changes. No more ads are summoned, so burn down any remaining Burrowers. Then nuke Anub'arak as hard as you can. Obviously, the more players left alive increases DPS, so each player is crucial. Anub'arak will now cast Leeching Swarm. The effect leeching swarm plagues every player with insects that leech their total health by 10% of their remaining health every second. So it's not a case of 100% to 90 to 80 to 70, it's going to be 10% of your remaining health, not your total health. Now, unfortunately this also heals the boss at the same time. So the trick here is to keep the raid alive at around about 50% health, no higher. Unfortunately, the higher the raid's health, the greater the 10% damage will be, and therefore the greater the healing Anub'arak will receive. So keep the raid's health as low as possible, whilst trying to keep everyone alive. Yeah, good luck with that, healers. Okay, so that's about it. The tactics are straightforward. The main problem we found was the fact we had to push our DPS constantly in lots of different directions at once, so it takes a lot of focus. So okay, there we go. As per normal, we wish you good luck, and we'll see you in the hard modes. Ta-da!
Malak! Rise, minions! Devour! The swarm shall overtake you!